Royal Caribbean basically now has, I mean, technically Royal Caribbean has a whole bunch of classes of ships. They've got their mega, ultra massive, we make the biggest ships in the world ships. Then they've got their huge mega ships. Then they've got their large cruise ships. But then they have a handful of what are just normal sized cruise ships now. They used to be huge, but now they're kind of on the smaller side almost. Well, Royal is taking two of those ships, Brilliance of the Seas and Radiance of the Seas, to Alaska. And today we're going to look at Radiance of the Seas Alaskan itineraries for 2024. Hey, welcome to This is the Cruise. I'm Clint, and this is the channel where we look at upcoming cruise itineraries and try to figure out if this is the cruise for you. Today, we're looking at Radiance of the Seas, cruising Alaska in 2024. In part one, I looked at Brilliance of the Seas. If you haven't watched that, check that out if you're interested in a smallish but still large ship going to Alaska. In part two, I looked at Quantum of the Seas. If you're looking at a big, massive mega ship going to Alaska and just want to be on a resort that just happens to also have some incredible landscape that you're passing by. And in part four, my next part of the series, we're going to look at Ovation of the Seas, another mega ship. And then in part five, I'm going to wrap it all up with a best of the best. Which ones should you consider going on if you're cruising Alaska? So let's start off right away with looking at where Radiance of the Seas is going in Alaska. To do this, I went through every single Royal Caribbean itinerary that they're doing in 2024. Took out all of the land tours prior to the ship because that just exponentially increases the number of itineraries that you could go on, and then ran everything through a matrix and ran everything through Clint's Cruisability score calculator platform that I'm building out, and came up with the best Radiance of the Seas itineraries. Before I show you those, and before I show you maybe the ones you want to avoid, I'd appreciate if you like and subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos that I release, particularly on the ones coming up on Alaska. And if you find the content helpful, I'd appreciate if you consider buying me a cup of coffee. There's a secure and safe link in the description below. It really helps out the channel and helps keep the content coming. Okay, so Radiance of the Seas is doing 7-day cruises out of Vancouver, and there are 5 distinct itineraries. Most are repeated, but a couple only sail once. The great thing about these itineraries is that they all score really close to being similar, except for a couple of exceptions, and I want to dig into why. So let's look at where these itineraries go, and we'll look at the 2 itineraries that maybe you should avoid, and really the ones that are pretty solid. Okay, so your destination ports here on Radiance will be some combination of the following: Juneau, Ketchikan, Icy Strait Point, Seward, Sitka, Skagway, and a bonus stop that we're going to get to in a minute. Your glacier cruisings will likely be Hubbard Glacier. All of Radiance of the Seas itineraries cruise the Inside Passage and stop in Juneau and Icy Strait Point. So you can bank that you're going to do that. You're going to Inside Passage, go to Juneau, and go to Icy Strait Point. I actually like that combination because Juneau is a cool stop to get a city, kind of Alaskan city vibe in. I mean, you're not going to go all the way up to Anchorage, but you're going to get to Juneau. And then Icy Strait Point has kind of some interesting offerings. It sort of feels like a private island stop. It's not Royal Caribbean's private stop. I've actually been there on Holland America, but it has a gondola that takes you up for a view. It's got some great little town things and shopping centers you can visit, and an old mining museum there. It's just kind of an interesting place. Plus you have Hoonah, which is a short distance away, which is native Alaskan town and is a great place to visit as well. Okay, so which itinerary should you avoid? This turns out to be pretty easy, actually. The one you absolutely should avoid is the September 20th sailing. First, it's the only itinerary that Radiance is doing that doesn't go to a glacier. It's possible they're skipping a glacier because it's just too late in the season, and that's fine, but you should know sailing on the September 20th sailing is not going to get you a glacier. And if you're expecting to cruise by these amazing glaciers on an Alaskan cruise and you're on that one, it's not going to happen. You're going to cruise Inside Passage, but there aren't any glaciers on Inside Passage. At least not that I can, at least I don't think there are. So if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments below. I mean, Inside Passage is beautiful, but it's not Alaskan glacier cruising. It's also the last sailing the Radiance of the Seas does in Alaska before heading to Tampa by way of LA and the Panama Canal and then over to the Caribbean. And you know, that cruise, it's October 5th and it's 16 days from LA to Tampa. Sounds actually pretty nice. I don't think I'd be able to get the PTO for it, but I wouldn't mind doing that itinerary. This itinerary gets a Clint's cruisability score of 19.94, but there's one cruise that scores even worse than this. The other itinerary that scores even lower and really should consider avoiding is the April 26th departure. It only visits 3 ports, Ketchikan, Icy Strait, and Juneau, and it does visit Hubbard Glacier. The other literally 21 itineraries that Radiance of the Seas does visits 4 ports. And we talked about the last one not going to a glacier, so that gets a knock. This one goes to a glacier, but only visits 3 ports. So wait a week, and you're gonna get 4 ports plus Hubbard Glacier. So this one is obviously not the one to pick. It's also early in the season, and I did actually in my Quantum of the Seas video picked an itinerary that leaves about this same time. So I don't necessarily have a problem with the date as much as I have a problem with only going to 3 ports. Royal Caribbean, what are you thinking? This one gets a Clint's cruisability score of only 17.87 and is clearly the weakest of the itineraries. I will say you're cruising, right? So if you can get it crazy cheap, like $70 a day or less, then I say, go for it. Okay, so here's maybe a problem with the Radiance of the Seas itineraries. There are only 2 sailings that are actually round trip. The others are all one way. You're either going to go northbound or southbound from Seward and Vancouver. The good thing is you can add on a land tour by doing one of these itineraries, which I'd highly recommend because then you could maybe see Denali. And then you get a train ride coming down from Fairbanks to Seward, which, that sounds spectacular. So it's a thing to consider here. But if you don't want to do the land tour, you are looking at one-way cruises on Radiance of the Seas. All right, so there are 10 northbound sailings that start in Vancouver and visit Juneau, Icy Strait Point, Sitka, Skagway, and end in Seward. And to get there, you cruise the Inside Passage and Hubbard Glacier. These get a Clint's cruisability score of 23.11. Then there are 4 southbound sailings starting in Seward that visit Juneau, Icy Strait Point, Ketchikan, Skagway, and then cruise Hubbard Glacier and Inside Passage before getting to Vancouver. These get a Clint's cruisability score of 23.18, almost identical, right? 23.11, 23.18, barely any difference. You're flipping Ketchikan and Sitka. I have some friends who are like, I don't really care for Sitka and I love Ketchikan. I like Ketchikan, I like Sitka, very different vibes. If I could pick, having been to both, I actually like Sitka better, but that's because I'm more of a less touristy small town vibe over small town more touristy vibe. Though, if you're gonna visit Ketchikan, I highly recommend visiting 55 North Coffee. Love it, love it, love it. And next time I'm back in Ketchikan, I absolutely am gonna go back and visit. They're not sponsoring this video, I just fell in love with that little coffee shop. But wait a second, we have 10 northbounds and I only talked about 4 southbounds. So what goes north must come south, right? It does, and this one actually surprised me quite a bit. And I gotta give props to Royal Caribbean for doing this itinerary. So you leave from Seward, you're gonna head towards Vancouver. You are gonna cruise the Inside Passage and the glacier is again gonna be Hubbard Glacier. You're gonna go to Juneau, Icy Strait Point, Ketchikan, Seward, Skagway, and Haines before getting, and it's not in quite that order, before getting down to Vancouver. So this is a 7-day, there are no sea days, but there's one extra stop in here. And it turns out what's happening is, in the previous stop, we left Skagway at 8 p.m. before heading out. This one leaves Skagway at 5 p.m. instead of 8, and then cruises down to Haines to spend the evening in Haines, Alaska, which is great. Remember that these are in the middle of summer and daylight goes until close to 11 o'clock at night. That's fantastic. So you've got the whole evening of daylight where you can spend in another port. This one gets a cleanse cruisability of 25.53, and is not a surprise that this is the cruise. The Radiance of the Seas southbound Alaskan cruises, they leave on May 24th, June 21st, July 19th, August 16th, August 30th, and September 13th. All things considered, it's the best value too, particularly if you're looking at an inside cabin. I mean, I know it's an inside cabin, you're cruising Alaska, you probably want to have a balcony. I can tell you philosophically, my wife and I tend to book inside cabins because we can cruise more often, and we just treat it as our bedroom and then go outside, to the other decks to see the sights. But that's just for us, and we make the most of it, and we have a great time, and we cruise more frequently because of it. The balconies are pretty consistent price-wise across kind of all of these bookings, but these southbound itineraries do tend to offer the best value from a dollar per point perspective. And that's it for Radiance of the Seas. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you next time.